everybody. Welcome back to our podcast. I am Althea Rain.
Mahalo Smythe.
And Yori Inoku.
And we are your hosts for Tre Geek. Let's talk about the movies. The first two movies I thought were brilliant.
Yes.
I liked the first two movies. I really liked the man that they had chosen to play as Albus Dumbledore. Richard Harris. He was a very soft-spoken man. I liked how they did his eccentric look with his bowler hat, the half moon glasses, his beard. They made him look regal but eccentric. Pretty much how I envision him from the books.
But he still had a presence. He still had even though he looked
maybe
old
and in some ways old and frail, but like if you looked at him, I got the very distinct sense that he was still a powerful badass that could knock you flat on your ass if you really decided to cut it up.
Yes.
So
I loved him so
Richard
much.
Harris nailed the part. So the first two movies I'll watch gladly.
Yes.
I even love to hate Gilderoy Lockhart.
Yes.
In real life, I know a guy who at one point I showed him a picture of Gilderoy Lockhart, and I'm like, dude, you look like him. And he goes, oh my God, I do. So I know a guy in real life who looked like Gilderoy Lockhart. Not the actor himself outside of that persona. It was something about the way that they made him look in the movie that his look looks just like this friend of mine. So I always thought that was absolutely funny. I loved the first two movies. I did understand why they made some of the creative differences. Maybe I didn't necessarily agree with them, but usually the first two movies of book to movie films, I don't really have too many problems with how they creatively diverge. It's usually the sequels where that starts to really come into play, and I really start to hate the movies. But they had to unfortunately replace Albus Dumbledore from Richard Harris because he died after Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. His actual last role was
The Count of Monte Cristo. I love that movie. I was like,
I love that movie too. That role was great. We were all wondering who they were going to come up with, and I think they chose the absolute worst person.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, please. If Michael Gambon ever sees this video, we don't hate you. I actually quite enjoy your acting abilities.
His acting is amazing, but for the role of Dumbledore,
he was not
too aggressive.
Miscast. Well,
yes.
Okay. Michael Gambon is not a very soft-spoken man. He's a bit louder, a bit more boisterous. I loved him in Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow was like his best role. Michael Gambon can do a lot of things, but they made a lot of creative choices to change his character as Albus Dumbledore. Not only did they have a different actor, but instead of the like purplish or darker colored robes, they went to beige or grayish beige or whatever. They went to what I would describe as more drab colors. They went to a different kind of hat that didn't jive with what I envisioned Dumbledore to wear. His beard and hair, instead of silver white or like straight white even, were like almost still brownish.
Yeah.
And then they made an even worse decision to put his beard
in a knot.
In a ponytail.
Yes. Oh, no, I can't with that one. I think most of the people that know me will know what is the worst scene ever for me in the Harry Potter saga.
Oh, I can tell you right now. It's going
and
to be
it's
Harry Potter in the chamber,
Did you
the
punch?
first one
Did you
when he
punch
shook
the name
him.
into the? Yeah, he grabbed the cherry. Harry Potter, did you put your name into the cup of the fire? Why? Like, why?
Let me tell you, that
I
is not how it went in the books. In the fourth book, Goblet of Fire,
uh-huh.
when Harry Potter's name goes into the goblet and it gets spit out as a fourth champ or as a fourth champion for the Triwizard tournament, Albus Dumbledore walks up to him and looks at him with this look of "I can tell if you're lying, so don't lie," and says, "Harry, I have to ask, did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?" No. The answer is no, he didn't. And when he responds with that answer, Albus is like, he didn't do it. In any of the books that I read, there was never a point where Albus got pissed off to the for any reason to the point where he was grabbing somebody and accosting them,
No,
let alone a
because
student.
that's he's how old is Dumbledore?
He was over
Like
120 at that point, we believe.
exactly. So it's like, bro, he has enough knowledge, enough maturity to like hide his feelings, like hide what he's actually feeling. If he's disappointed, he will look at you, and if he wants to tell you, he will tell you. But that's this whole thing like nah.
I stopped watching the movies after the third one, though. I didn't even make it as far as the fourth one because that was not the only decision that they made. Um, my immersion breaking moment in the third one was the Forbidden Forest. It's called the Forbidden Forest for a reason. You're not supposed to go into the Forbidden Forest. This was
Yeah,
established in the first movie,
but that's the thing. In
but
the
then
first movie, they sent them like
they set it up
McGonagall.
that way. But here's the thing:
Yes.
in the third movie, didn't Remus and Harry go through a light stroll through a woody area? So they had the Forbidden Forest that was no longer seemingly forbidden. They had terrain that was no longer in the moors. It was now
Mhm.
kind of hilly. And I
Oh
understand
yeah,
that they
they
had
did
to change.
change.
I understand that they had to change locations, but for me, it was like every little bit that added up, and then it was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. They now suddenly had hills right around the castle grounds that didn't have hills in the previous one.
Yeah, because it was Hagrid's cabin was not. You didn't have to go down the hills. Like the kids would walk to Hagrid's cabin from the
Yeah,
yeah, entrance. It would go there, and that was it. I thought it
and
was after the
no,
third
that was
one,
the
but
it was the third one. They changed everything for the third one.
yeah, because it was Alfonso Cuarón was the one
And that
who
was why I
like
stopped watching the movies because I couldn't stand it anymore. I it was a lot of little things that just added up into me hating that movie. Um Maybe the change of location wouldn't have been so bad if everything else was at least kept up. If everything
yeah.
else was at least somewhat decent. Like there was a lot of stuff. I also did not agree with the casting for Peter Pettigrew. I know that they kind of described him that J.K. Rowling kind of described him as rat-like or whatever, but there had to have been a reason why three much more handsome um people would hang out with Peter Pettigrew. If anybody was going to get bullied, it would have been the really entirely ugly one.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
I don't agree with the choice acting for who they chose for Pettigrew. Well, I mean,
now
maybe the acting choice was fine if they hadn't made him look so much more ratty.
I think it could also mean that Peter was not he did not look like that prior to him cutting off his toe, like his finger, and just transforming into Scabbers. Because he was Scabbers for so long. Like, did he another thing is you never know, like
See, I
I
can
kind of
accept that. I can
yeah, I
accept
kind of
that.
it could be that he's been like a rat, for the major for 12 years, and it could have taken a toll on how he transfigured back into a human because it's been so long. But then
Yeah,
it
but
all but then
Yeah.
it also lets me think about, like, wouldn't Peter go outside of the Weasleys and transform himself back into Peter just to, hang around? Was he always with the Weasleys? Like, and how the hell did he
I
end
know
up
that he was with the
there?
Weasleys for a long time because he was um now rats generally live about 3 years their lifespan. And by the time that Prisoner of Azkaban was coming around, Ron was concerned about Scabbers, and even when they were in Diagon Alley, took him to get a tonic because he was concerned about his health, right? And
Yeah,
saying that
but
he was an older fellow. And in the first one, it is determined that Ron got him from his older brother.
Percy, right? It was
I
either
believe it was
Percy,
Percy or
Bill.
Charlie, I think. So
Uh,
they had him for at least a couple years before that. So they had this rat in their lives for at least 5 to 6 years, if not more. Which
mhm.
I can't imagine it had been much more than 5. Because if a rat's lifespan is only about 3 years, even somebody like Percy or no, Pettigrew would be aware that that would be beyond their suspension of disbelief. So I would imagine he was probably only with the Weasley family for about 5 by the time that the third book came around. But
So it
I
says
don't know. But I don't know.
so I just searched it and it says Scabbers was actually Peter Pettigrew, blah blah blah. He stayed as a rat for 12 years from November 81 to June 94, living as Percy and then Ron's pet Scabbers in order to hide.
But for all 12 years?
According to the um web page that I'm gonna send you a copy of the link um about Scabbers. It did say that he was 12 years, transfigured frequently in the 70s as part of the Marauders, then transformed semi permanently from November 81 through 1998.
But
94, sorry.
doesn't specifically say
Hmm.
that he was as their pets for the entirety of that time.
Exactly, because it was only for Percy
Because
and
it would have
Ron.
been it he would have had to find a way to find them. Like how did he even from going into the sewers, how did he even find the Weasley family anyway? So I would imagine he spent a number of years trying to find a good place to be before finding the Weasley family.
Hmm.
So I still stand by it was probably closer to about 5 years with the family itself. See, and it says in that same article or the same page that you linked me, it says in the notes just how and when Scabbers managed to integrate himself into the Weasley household is unclear. If Percy had him as a pet for a few years, we might guess that he joined the family in the mid to late 1980s, where he was in where he was in the years between is never stated.
Hmm.
Um, so
So it's weird. It's
so
weird
I
how
don't
he ended
really
up there.
I really don't mind how he was portrayed in the books. I'm not as convinced about how he was portrayed in the movie. I also,
Mhm.
don't get me wrong, I like Gary Oldman, but I also don't really buy him as Sirius either. I
In a way, that's like, I love Gary Oldman, but in a way, it is true how he portrayed Sirius. Um, was could have been better, I think, at the beginning in Prisoner of Azkaban. I kind of get why he looked how he looked, but then he could have looked better in the other ones, like healthier, because he was out of Azkaban and such. But
I don't know.
it's mixed. Yeah, it's kind of mixed feelings on that, and
So
yeah.
I just all in all, when it boils down to it, I just was not very fond of the third movie. Um, like I said, most of my qualms were like small stuff, except for Albus, that was huge, and the Forbidden Forest, that was immersion breaking for me. But everything else just kind of built up to the point where I'm like, no, I'm done with this stuff. If this is who you're going to have as Albus Dumbledore, if this is what you're going to do for the creative decisions going forward with this, I'm out. And so
Mhm.
I never saw another movie after that one. And then I remember the fourth movie came out, and you went to see it, and you told me about the shaking of Harry's shoulders, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm glad I never saw that. I You can imagine I'd be raging. You
Mhm.
were raging.
I was like, "Fudge this." Ah,
So
I really didn't
I
like
don't really
it.
have anything to say about the movies after that. Simply because I haven't seen them. I can't tell you what the fifth, the sixth, seventh movies are like. I've never seen them. I won't. Like I said, I
Mhm.
won't even read the sixth and seventh books because I think what she did to the characters was beyond atrocious. I I hate what she did, and I know it's her book and it's her prerogative to do those things, but that doesn't mean that I have to like them. So
Mhm.
as far as the movies go, it is what it is. And then we've got the Fantastic Beast movies that I saw none of those movies, and because of what happened with, let's say, Johnny Depp, I won't go back and
Mhm.
watch them. If they do miraculously come out with another Fantastic
No, they
Beast movie,
canceled
I know
it
they did.
already.
I know they
Yeah.
already did. But if for some reason it ends back up on the table,
Table.
I'm not gonna go see it.
I
These
mean,
movies, I did
the
not feel that they were made for me. I don't
Mhm.
even know why they called them Fantastic Beasts. I mean, I know the fundamental reason why they call them Fantastic Beasts because Newt Scamander wrote Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
Exactly.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that from what I gathered, it really doesn't have that much to do with Fantastic Beasts. It's more about
Um,
Newt Scamander.
exactly. I think they just did it because J.K. Rowling wrote a Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them book. And the book is basically obviously it's like giving you what Newt wrote for Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, but like,
Um,
look at what they did with Harry Potter, for example. When they wanted to talk
mhm,
about Harry Potter's life, they had Harry Potter and this, Harry Potter and that, the Chamber of
yeah.
Secrets, Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter and the Half Blood Prince. They could have done something with that for Newt Scamander and Grindelwald, or Newt Scamander and this
I
aspect of his
think
life.
that's why they put Fantastic Beasts, the
But
Crimes
it
of
is so
Grindelwald, and
misleading. It is
yeah,
misleading because it has nothing to do with Fantastic Beasts. If you actually look at the book Fantastic Beasts, and I own a copy of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, all it
yeah.
is basically
Just
a
letting you know the
dictionary, an
yeah.
encyclopedia of the different magical creatures. There's no story to it.
And to tell to all fair, like I saw the first two movies, they were good. It's just and I kind of get that it might be that some of the Fantastic Beasts that are in the that appear in the movie are those that are in the encyclopedia. It could be that hey, this is the beast and where he saw them to
But if
kind
they're
of get
going to
the
do something like
encyclopedia
that, if
done.
but if they were going to do something like that, why didn't they make a story that focused on his
Mhm.
travels? Do you realize there would have been a good story
Yes.
there if they wanted to make a Fantastic Beast and Where to Find It? They should have had Newt Scamander traveling all over the world and his adventures with some of these very dangerous beasts. Because
Exactly.
some of them are definitely beasts that could kill you.
But I bet I bet it's just because they wanted to explain, and I get it. They wanted to explain Grindelwald and Dumbledore, even though instead of
But
making a
then don't
freaking
name
movie
it
about Dumbledore,
but then don't
uh,
name it after a fantastic beast.
exactly, just say Albus Dumbledore, uh, uh,
the life in
whatever
his
happened
the life and story of
before.
Albus Dumbledore, or the life and story of some so and so, Newt
And I kind
Scamander
of
and Albus Dumbledore. What they did was the dumbest freaking decision that they could have made. Whether they did it because they wanted to explain, oh, he's the one that wrote the books, or they did it for whatever their reasons are,
Yeah.
You either make it about the Fantastic Beasts that are in the Fantastic Beast book, or you take the title and name it something different and maybe have a highlighted area where he's starting to write the Fantastic Beasts book.
Mhm.
Don't name it Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them if you're not going to make it about the Fantastic Beasts and showcase where to find them.
Yes.
That is not the appropriate way. It confused a lot of people. I heard a lot of people making reviews that were like, I was going into this expecting that it was going to be about the beasts in the book, but it has nothing to do with any of that, and I'm so confused. People were
Mhm.
saying that left and right. So it was a creative choice that made no sense to me, no matter how you try to explain it. So I don't even care at this point because nothing is
Mhm.
going to justify the title for something that's not about Fantastic Beasts.
Exactly. No, it's true. I mean, it is true. It's like it's ridiculous that they could have said New Scarmander, The Adventures of New Scarmander, or um,
Yeah,
I
that would
don't
have been a
know.
good
Yeah.
one. The Adventures of Newt Scamander, that would have been good. But then
Um.
then why focus though if that's going to be about his life, why focus on Albus Dumbledore and Grindelwald? As
Mhm.
far as I knew, there was nothing that indicated Newt Scamander had anything to do with their little petty squabbles or what led to Grindelwald becoming the monster that he became.
Mhm.
So, I mean, all of these things, creative decisions aside, just really kind of drew me away from wanting to see it. And when I saw the trailer, I was watching it and I'm like, why are they all just casting magic wandlessly or so quickly? And what is going
Operating in
on here?
Hogwarts.
And another thing that you just said that apparating. Now, in the magical world where magic exists, if you can believe that as part of the suspension of disbelief for an alternate world, whatever,
Mhm.
Hogwarts has wards against apparating on the premises. They wanted to protect the children, which is primarily what the thing is about because it's a school.
Yeah.
So protecting children from potential outward threats would have been paramount. So an a ward that would prevent people from magically appearing on and off the premises would have been standard for a place like Hogwarts for thousands of years, by the way, or over 1,000 years since the founders of the school. So, that being said, port keys were able to be used on school grounds. The flute network, in certain points, was allowed to be used on school grounds. But apparating directly on and off, you had
Mhm.
to apparate over by Hogsmeade or I believe down by the train station. There was a reason why the students had to take a train to get from point A to Hogwarts.
And then the boats,
And then the
but the
boats
boats have
or
thestrals
or the
Yeah.
carriages by the Thestrals. There was a reason why the carriages took them from um
Point
school
B to point C.
from school to Hogsmeade
Yeah, that's true.
because you can't
Ah.
apparate on school grounds, but yet they were apparating on school grounds in Fantastic Beasts.
Mhm.
Also don't like the creative decision they made with Nagini, making her
Oh
into
god.
originally a woman,
Yeah, it was an anime.
and like an animagus that got stuck in that form or something.
Yeah, it's like kind of weird because then the the timeline kind of is
Gets
weird.
askew. It's
It's
always
it's
it's always
super
really dodgy
weird.
business. It's always dodgy business when you make one series and then you go back and make a prequel series. It's always going to be dodgy business because unless you're prepared to read all of the source material and then get more source material from the original creative person. And I've also been told that she didn't actually create books to explain this. She created the scripts for the films, which if you are a writer you're going to tell people those two things are vastly different things.
Mhm.
A script for a film is a completely different entity than the transcript of a book. So, I've been told that people have been saying she's not really very good at script writing for film. She's good at writing her books, but that's about it. And I heard a lot of negative reviews from people who say these movies just don't really make much sense. So,
S So wait a second, so basically, I've been trying to figure out, like, the timeline for this, because how old was Voldemort when, you know, he was, like, how long ago was Voldemort?
right, and that's another thing too that makes things dodgy is
And
like
according to this, like, Newt Scamander was born 1897. Almost 29 years later, that's when, Voldemort almost was born. He was born Tom Marvolo Riddle was born December 31st, 26. So it's like around 29 years later. So Newt Scamander is actually 29 when Voldemort is born.
although why are we talking about Voldemort? He's not
No,
in
I
this.
no, I know that, but
And
it's like
Grindelwald was born in 1882 to 83. Albus
so
Dumbledore was born in like 81.
wait a second, that means he's like 10 years younger than Newt.
Um, no, he was
1881.
no
18
1881.
Oh, yeah,
Newt
that's true.
Scamander was 1897.
Yeah, 16 years difference, 16 years older than
Yeah,
Scarmander.
yeah.
Then how the hell was he a professor already for when Newt was in?
And if that's the case, I mean, you got to
Ah!
think about when in the original books, you got Albus Dumbledore who wasn't even headmaster yet when Voldemort was going through the school. He might
He
have
was a
been
teacher, he
he was
was
a
a
teacher
teacher.
at that point. Yes.
Yeah, but
Albus
still,
Dumbledore
like
didn't become a headmaster until after the diary.
yeah. Yeah, but why is it that Albus Dumbledore has such a power when and he taught Newt as well?
Yeah. See,
Okay.
you guys, this is where our disconnect is coming in. There's a lot of things that just don't jive because they literally made a series of movies that supposedly take place before. But here's the problem. We know for a fact that Gerlich
Maybe somebody in the
Grindelwald.
maybe somebody in the comments will let us know. Like maybe somebody will be like, "Hey, no, this is what's going on." So probably it would be nice, hey, if you guys know about it, then comment. But
But
like, it's
here's the
just
thing.
kind of weird.
But here's the thing. Grindelwald was still in power in 1945. It wasn't until after he had established a base in, I think, somewhere in Germany, whatever, it
Uh huh.
was around the 45 mark, the same era as a certain German, you know who, when Grindelwald was finally defeated.
Yeah, but he was defeated. He was defeated then
What
while
I'm saying, but yes, what I'm saying.
Tom was already in Hogwarts.
I know that, but that's what I'm saying. So why
Hmm.
weren't they basing these films later on? Why did they go so early into these films to try to film something about his earlier life? Albus Dumbledore wasn't that powerful a figure way back then.
Yeah. but they made him
they are elevating people beyond where they should be in their younger years, in their formative years.
Mhm.
It's like they're trying to make them seem almost godlike. Like Albus
Yes.
Dumbledore wouldn't have made that much of a name for himself when he was like, I don't know, 20, 30 years old.
Yeah.
It was for him more after that, because if he's still just a teacher in 1945 or in the 1940s when Marvolo Riddle is going through school,
Yes.
why is he so held up to a higher standard or higher place holding early on? None of the Fantastic Beast movies is making any sense to me based on what we do know of their history. It's like it's almost retconning certain things that have already been done.
Mhm.
And this is the problem of making a movie that is pretty much a prequel after the fact. This is why
After certain points were already
if you're
said.
going to make a film thing, do the prequel part first. So that way you make sure you have your story straight when you get to the other stuff. You know, I just really kind of became disenfranchised with her and her ideas of what she was writing. Again, I'm not saying that there's anything inherently wrong with her writing. If that's how she wanted to write it, that's how she wrote it. But I don't have to like it. I don't have to like her content anymore after a complete and utter obliteration of her series, of her stories.
Yeah. I mean, I love the world. I love the
I love the world building that she began. I don't
Yes.
love the world that she left behind in there.
Mhm.
Thanks for geeking out with us this week.
If you enjoy our content, please like, share, and subscribe.
Stay tuned for our next segment.
Bye.
Bye.